Welcome to video 2 of relationships. Now in today's video, you're going to learn how to set boundaries and some of the pitfalls that prevent us from setting effective boundaries. All right, let's take a moment and review what we learned in video 1. Now when we're having a victim story, we are disempowering ourselves by blaming and justifying others. We're giving our power away and getting less of what we want in return. Now when we're having accountability, we can act in peace and take responsibility in our relationships. Now my challenge to you was to identify 3 people or situations where you are justifying and blaming and playing the victim. What did you find out? Did anything surprise you? Did you identify any areas where you really were disempowering yourself and the people you were in relationships with? Now when we are below the line, we are in resistance, the next piece of the wheel of war and peace. What does resistance look like in our relationships? Well, this is where we should on them. Meaning, well, he shouldn't be working so much, or she shouldn't be angry at me. He should provide better. My mother-in-law should stay out of our business. Or my kids should obey me. And my boss should allow me more privileges at work. My friend should call me and ask me how I'm doing more often. It's the things like this that we resist. Now, resistance leads to resentment. Resentment leads to revenge. Revenge is being at war. It's below the line. Where and with whom right now are you resisting and resenting? All right, let's change to peace and go above the line. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. How can we accept what is in order to be at peace? First, we can change our perspective. How we do this is asking the question, how is this perfect for me? Whatever this is, whatever I'm resisting. What am I learning in this opportunity? Another tool that I love is doing a positive review, simply highlighting what is good happening in my life or my relationships or that specific situation right now. It's basically having gratitude. The second thing we can do is basically set boundaries, or what I like to call double white lines. Now, what do double white lines refer to on the freeway? What they say is do not cross. It's kind of like the HOV lane. Do not cross. Boundaries are above the line because they put us in a place of power and accountability. This is not doormat. This is not I quit, put me in your POW camp. When I'm in acceptance, I'm not letting people run all over me. James Lehman from Total Transformation says there is no excuse for abuse. Again, this is not allowing people to tread all over us. Jamie Utley, Outlook Development, says you can still be at peace and call the police. Now, how can we set effective double white lines or boundaries? Number 1, define your double white lines. Define your boundaries. Now, my dear friend Heidi Freeman, a great facilitator, she once said, if you want to know when your boundary has been crossed, you'll typically want to tell 10 friends about something someone else did. That's an illustration that your boundaries have just been crossed. This is how you know. So define your boundaries. Number 2, set the consequences. Now, if there were no consequences to crossing the double white lines on the freeway, then we'd cross them all day long. Important to set consequences you can live with. I'll talk more about this. Now, again, if the consequences punish you, then you may not want to keep them. So set consequences. Number 3, communicate them. Let them know that the rules have changed. Now, we have taught, trained, and educated them in our lives otherwise. We'll talk more about that as well. Number 4, be patient and be strong. Stick to the consequences. Even the best in relationships have boundary issues. Boundaries serve every relationship to foster and develop safety, which can lead to more connection and intimacy. Now, when it comes to your boundaries, you have the right to say no. It is your right. You have the right to draw your own boundaries so you can feel safe in a relationship. And what is more, you have an obligation to say no. The thing is, our boundaries are where we teach, train, and educate others how to treat us. So make sure the consequences you set is something that you can live with. Now, if your kids are fighting in the car and you tell them, hey, if you don't be quiet, I'm going to turn this car around and we're not going to grandma's. Unless you are willing to not go to grandma's, don't set that consequence. If you set a consequence and you don't keep it, you've made yourself a liar. My challenge to you is this: outline a boundary you could create in one of your relationships. What is that boundary and what's the consequence? This week, I'm going to teach you how to communicate your boundaries. That's in the next video. We'll see you there.